All right, Heart of the Matter. Thanks everyone for joining me once again for another episode this week. Please go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our podcast channels on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and click that 5-star rating on Apple. It goes a long way to help fight the algorithm as well as the shadow banning from some of these platforms that don't appreciate us. Sometimes here speaking truth to power in this modern day menace of the music business here on the show. And speaking of shows, we got a great one today for everybody. As I'd like to welcome to the show the Motor City Maestro. That's going to be your new nickname there, Eric. Motor City Maestro, guitar extraordinaire, of course, one of the stars and features from the film Lifers. We got Mr. Eric Kluber joining me today. Eric, what's going on, bud?
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, it's been a while. I know. It's great to have you on, man. It's been a while since we've done this. I think last time I spoke with you on one of these podcasts was right, I think, as you were getting ready to go on that big tour you did with Society One with Static X and Fear Factory. That was about 3 years ago now that happened or something, right?
I was in
3 years, right?
2023, so time has flown by. And
Yeah,
did
man.
we do Lifers after that?
Well, we did Lifers after that, yeah. I'm trying to think though. I don't think did we do a podcast about? We might have. I don't, to promote it. I don't think we did though, right?
It's been a long time, man. So it's great to be back and just hang out and talk some metal and metal culture.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, speaking of Lifers, I mean, in the film, I mean, I know that we heard when we heard from you in that film, you've been focusing, I know, on other ventures within the music world, but outside of being in a band, as you talked about in the film, you wanted to kind of spread your wings a little bit. I know. How is everything going? Just fill us in what you've been up to, I guess, since, Lifers for the last few years, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still in the band Society One, and we went and did some shows last year and filmed a few of them. And Matt's the singer of Society One. He put out a movie called Everyone Dies. So that was a big part of that band's trajectory. And then we're filming a follow-up with some of these other shows after the fact, because Everyone Dies was kind of his history for Society One up to that point, including that tour with Static X and Fear Factory. And then Life Beyond, there'll be another follow-up. But in the midst of that, he got into doing this this documentary about Wayne Static and Tara, which is Society One on hold because he's like a one-man army. And I'm fine with that. Like, I'm the guitar player of Society One, and I can contribute and perform. I'm kind of going with the flow. And that's my attitude of a lot of things, Like, this isn't my band. I'm willing to contribute if you want me to. If you don't, I can just perform. And so, I was doing that for the last year and kind of been on, I guess, just on standby with that project. I did another show with one of my bands back from the day when I was in Detroit called Overloaded. And that was last year. And that was, kind of just the stars aligned and we flew out to do it. And I was really hoping to get that band and kind of have that in my back pocket, because it's a great band. People like it. All the band members are still around, like the original band members. So we could, if we wanted to do songs, if we wanted to do a short tour or just be on call, we could do it. And we did a show at the Token Lounge, which was kind of like my backyard back when I lived there. It's a club on the west side. And we did it with another band called Face. And that was cool to do, but kind of in just the way shit goes down, we kind of had this behind the scenes drama and just this ridiculous rock and roll cliche, band guys just getting into arguments for no reason, makes absolutely no sense, completely destroying the chemistry, almost destroying the show. So I would have flown out and it all would have been for nothing. But we did the show, but and then that's going to be it. I don't see, besides an absolute miracle happening between two of the dudes that are no longer on speaking terms, that's just not going to happen. And that's how these bands go. I mean, they're so unstable, unfortunately. You can have all of the things lined up, meaning like the guys are still around, everyone's in the same city, or they can get together and everyone can still play, all, that could be just off the table. But that was too bad. Like, it was good to do the show, and there's a couple videos on YouTube and the Facebook, but I think that's going to be it with that one. So other things, I just been like doing life. What's funny, like where does music, what do you do with music after you've been pursuing bands and like band after band collapses or falls apart or quits, or like it just is no longer around? And like, I'm always open to like seeing to opportunities, but I've just been concentrating on trying to maybe learn how to sing. Like I would like to just do my own music and be completely unreliant on anyone. Right. So
sure.
Like all of it, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, write it all, find some dudes that like, hey, you want to play bass? Hey, you want to play drums? Let's do this, and write music that people could pretty much like walk into. So you don't have to go to 4 years of college to learn how to play it. And come out and rock. That would be the idea. Now, talk is cheap, but I've been like just concentrating on like just music itself, like just trying to become a better guitar player, trying to learn how to sing, which I'm still just not there. I pretty much suck still, but like,
not easy, man.
No, it's not, man. And like, I think for metal, like if you can just hit the notes in key, like you're better than, like you're at the top tier. Like, come on. Most people, dude, come on, man. Most they can't even sing a fucking nursery rhyme, Like, studio is one thing, but like, just hit the notes in key, you're doing all right. So the bar is pretty low, but I still, we'll see how that goes. But like, that's been an idea. And then occasionally, like if maybe I'll do something else, maybe I'll join someone else's band, or Society One kicks back up, or there's even been a couple like maybe doing a tribute band, which I've been against tribute bands, and I still think that yes, they are a reason why I think they hurt the original music scene, but it is what it is, like they're still around. And like, sometimes it's cool just to play, I think it's important not to get totally rusty and just like, because you can just start sucking pretty quick. And so I think you gotta like keep playing, but not just in your room, because like just getting on stage and playing loud and playing with people, like we got a club out here called Knuckleheads that does this like metal jam with some killer players. Like, dude, bass player that was in Max Cavallara's Soulfly, and then like the current Soulfly, and then Conan, who's a guitar player of Deicide, and like this amazing guitar player Ty Asaudigan, who's like, he's like a guitar tech for everybody. You've probably seen him at 1,000 shows, because it's what a lot of dudes have to do to pay the bills. They end up being the guitar tech, but you never know that guy is probably better than the guy that you paid to come see, right? But that's like, anyway, there's a lot of great players there, and like a lot of times it's a train wreck, and it's completely like, it can go great or it can go terrible. Oh man. So, but it's like something I do to kind of like just stay alive and just be part of it. So those are some things. And then one final thing that I've been getting into is like, I still enjoy seeing shows, and like a lot of the shows are bands. I'll tell people about the bands I've seen and try to convince them how cool it was, or try to, that you should have been to this show. It's like a band that maybe you wouldn't think is even that good. I'm like, you had to be there. So like, I've just been capturing more of these events. Like, I'm there already, and I like to like just film a whole song. Like every time I go look for a song, it's like 45 seconds or 30 seconds. That doesn't do it for me. That's bullshit. That's fake, if anything. I want to see a whole song from start to finish and see how the band is, and if they can still pull it off. And so, yeah, my No Legacy Records, which I put out these compilation like albums and cassette tapes over the years. I just go by that name, just like No Legacy Records on YouTube. And when I go to a show, like sometimes I'll do just a couple songs, or sometimes I'll go crazy and like do the whole show, my arm will like end up in a sling afterwards. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of like a way of being a part, like I enjoy it, it's kind of a
Sure.
pain in the ass, but sometimes I go to a show and I'm like, this band, like, I can never find them. I know I go and do tours and I'm like, where's the footage, and I'm lucky if there's any of it, because it's the stuff I'm into is just like, sometimes there's not that many people there and the people are there are not filming it. So that's something I've been doing that like, it's sort of cool. It's kind of like going back in the day, like when zines were still around, just kind of being part of it. And it's like a way to be part of the scene without being on stage. And I like it,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you said something about, like you said, doing covers. Yes. I mean, typically, historically, I've never been a huge cover band person myself, but, you know, let's be honest. I mean, rock and metal, it's in a time where really nostalgia is what it's all about. It's just all about, because there is nothing, I'm not saying there's nothing new coming out. There's been plenty of new music, but there's no new sound that's pique people's interest, or it's something that hasn't been done before. So I think what happens is we're just at that time period, especially, in this generation, the Gen X kind of phase where, it happens to every generation. You hit like 50 or whatever, and it's like, all right, I just want something that's going to take me back to the good old days or whatever it is. We see this with every generation with music fans. I think part of the problem, like you said, is just because the music business hasn't promoted, hasn't developed new rock and metal artists. We're just kind of left going, you know what? I mean, the stuff back then was just so much better, so much more innovative. And I think people just want to hear it. It takes them back. I mean, people go out now in our age group and they want to go see stuff that they're familiar with. No one really wants to hear new stuff because it's also not prevalent in our culture anymore. And so I think it's just the way it is right now, where, like you said, yeah, I mean, being in cover bands is probably more lucrative than starting your own band and putting out new music. It definitely is, I should say, not probably. So,
well, it definitely is, but people can rely on it. They know what they're getting into. And,
yes.
Part of checking out these bands from back in the day was like your friend might have dragged you along, or you might have heard about it, or like heard the name. I'm trying to think of like you had something to bring you into it. And when you have nothing to go on nowadays, like you don't just go to a club and roll the dice. You never do.
Mm-hmm.
You go in there, you know what you're getting into. Either at least you're seeing your friend, or you heard of somebody, or you're supporting your friend's band that you don't really like, but you're there to be, friendly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so it's just a thing. I wouldn't overthink it. It's just it makes a lot of sense, and it's for a musician, it's a way to get out there and play, and do it, and actually well, those guys do get paid. It's just nice to sometimes play in a better club with a decent sound system. I mean, if you're an original band, you might not even be able to get a show at all. And if you do, it might be the worst show ever in history. But I still encourage it. That's my shit. That's my jam. I still love seeing original bands at clubs and like actually I do prefer when they actually play a club that has a decent sound system, like I saw in Tranced, and I'm like at the Whiskey, and they opened for they were opening for a band, but I was going to see Entranced. So anyway, I was like, I finally get to see you guys on a real stage with a real PA and real lights, because I'm always seeing them at dive bars, and that's how like the traditional metal scene is a lot of times. But it was good to see them on a real stage. So just playing on a real stage in itself is like, that's kind of a rarity anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, so as a musician, it's just like cover bands. I think tribute bands are a little cooler than cover bands. At least they're going for something. You know what I mean? Rather than like cover bands are just appealing to like the absolute shittiest, most benign
basic
songs, right? So this is a little cooler. At least you're like going for a more specific sound. At least you know what you're getting into, right? But
true.
I don't want to. It is what it is. It's a thing that's around. I hope that original music can continue to exist. And there are some good bands out there.
Yes, no, and you know what? And we're going to start things off here. Speaking of something along those lines, I mean, I've over the years when I've had you on Aftershocks to this, we usually would talk about what you had going on musically with your bands, but today, yes, we're gonna be getting into some discussions of some of the happenings that are going on in rock and metal, and like I said, I wanted to get your thoughts because you're coming from a musician standpoint, someone who's toured extensively over the years, with bands, on renowned labels and so forth. So this is something that's a good, segue into what we're going to start here with. Speaking of that, like you said, original music, we're hitting a time and a place, in music where yes, this could start becoming sort of phased out, and this is just maybe a microcosm of kind of what's going on out there. And not this is and now we're going to bring up about talk about here about a band that's been around for 35 plus years. Um, this is feature. We're going to talk about the band Incantation. Okay, about 2 weeks ago, their guitarist and frontman John McEntee. Me and Chris interviewed him some years back for Aftershocks. Really nice guy. Really seems like a cool dude. Obviously, he's been doing this 35, like I said, plus years with the band. They're one of those OG death metal bands out of New Jersey. He was essentially, I was going to bring up the video, but I think he took it down because I think he's gotten some extensive blowback from it. But essentially, he put out a video on his social media page, essentially asking fans to donate food and bottled water, saying, and I'll bring up just a thing here. It's just just for the the audience here to check out. Okay, this is on lambgoat.com. You can read the article. I'm not going to read it word for word, obviously, but it says here the headline is Incantation requests fans to bring them non-perishable food while on tour due to poor hospitality. So I'm just going to read just a one thing here that he put, John, in his video. He said, if anybody feels like bringing some food on over, go for it. We're all about it because you basically just get a buyout, which is about enough to pay for most of a meal each day. And he goes on to say, I figured maybe someone out there might have some badass food that they want to bring to the show, and we're accepting. So, I mean, it's like I said, the video is no longer available, but, it just, in order, I think, to calm the waters after this came out, he went on and actually started doing a real, actual food drive at the band shows for this tour, which, some people are saying, well, he's doing that to cover up, the backlash for actually asking for food. Some people say, well, no, this is just a good gesture and so forth. I mean, everybody can take what they want from it. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Eric. As a guy who has, one second here, as a guy yourself who's toured, I know it's been a few years since you have, but I know you've done it throughout your musical career. Obviously, as we were just talking about, we know times are tough these days for touring musicians, but they're also pretty tough for fans as well. But it's tough for everybody because fans got to foot the bill for the ticket, for the merch, which of course we all want to do to support the bands. And here's John is asking, we can people donate some food? As we know, high prices to go to shows, merchandise isn't cheap, but yet it's also a lot of bands are going on tour and you're losing money going on tour. So we're in this sort of space here where it's really tough for both fans and musicians to make this still happen. Like you said, to still go out there and see original music. Now, asking for food donations, that's the first I've ever heard. What's your take on all this? What John's talking about?
That's so cool. I love it. I can't believe anyone would try to use it against the band. And it's very punk rock, very DIY. I mean, touring is just it's just survival on the road. All of the money that's generated goes to someone else. And the bands are dirt fucking poor. And food is so expensive. You just go to the gas station. You can just buy like candy bars and Cheez-Its and potato chips. And you'll spend so much money. It costs like $50 a day just to survive on shit food that'll make you sick. So it's a great idea. And what a cool thing. There's like a lot of people in the metal scene that are still going out to shows that are probably great cooks that can like, we loved it when I was in Gypsy Hawk, especially. We would have friends and they'd kind of like house us and feed us and like take pride in like cooking us something awesome. And so like bands are just dirt fucking poor. Almost all of them are probably going broke to tour. They're probably throwing shit on the credit card and doing it for the experience. And I think it's really cool. It should be. I'm surprised that it's the first time it's really made the headlines, because it kind of sounds like common sense to me. So yeah, I think the internet's just so evil that people are just looking for any excuse or any angle to tear someone down. And that would be it. And so did he get maybe embarrassed by it and feel like he needed to do a food drive? Like, that's really cool too. It's not very death metal. Like, I feel like you should, people are like evil, but you come to find out that that's mostly just not true, right? And then when you do meet really evil people, they suck. Those are bad. They suck. They steal from you, and like, they might. Dude, I've heard stories about anal cunt would dine and dash, and like that's how they rolled. They didn't, man. They're fucking criminals. Just be all wasted. My buddy was touring with them, and said then they'd be all hammered and dine and dash from the Waffle House, and then be split and go the wrong way down the freeway. Those guys were fucking insane, So I guess you can go that route. I think a lot more people would really respect that, right? Because people just love the story. Yeah, but I think it's super cool. It makes perfect sense because fucking combo meal at Carl's Jr. is $20.
Yeah.
Right? And you can tell me you're going to live off one combo meal a day? No, I bet you got to eat more than that. The buyouts are pathetic if they even happen. And like, yeah, what are they giving them? $20? Like I said, that's maybe a combo meal, which, dude, I mean, I like living off of fast food is so shitty. It sucks so bad. It's really expensive. The hotels are insane. Like when you're on the road, I feel like even in shitty bumfuck towns, like hotels are like $200 a night. And what's your choice? A lot of times you do sleep in the van, you just pull over because it doesn't even make sense to like check into the hotel. What are you going to check in at 2 a.m. to fucking check out? Because you got to be on the road. You got like 8-hour drive, check out at 8 a.m. Sometimes you get in those positions where it doesn't even make sense at all. So I think what he's doing is super cool. I think it's great. Like when I read like Henry Rollins' book about shut up and get in the van, like he at the time, and I was pretty young when I read it, but he talked a lot about DIY life. And, he says that he lived in a shed behind someone's house for years and years. He had a friend that lived off of dog food, and he'd have all these stories, these punk rock survival stories. I love that, like ingenuity, like when the guitar player of Megadeth, super fucking badass from Peace Cells, how can I be Chris Poland. And he said that after Megadeth, he went on tour with the Circle Jerks. And so those guys would be on the road. And then while they're on the road, they're hitting the thrift stores and the pawn shops and buying fucking badass Marshalls and guitars and then reselling them in LA and making tons of money. And he said that was the first tour he ever came back with that had money. But like, dude, most bands are fucking so broke. They're making zero if they're lucky. Because a lot of them are just going in a hole and they're coming back and then they got to pay their bills. Like, I don't know how, people don't get it, but these motherfuckers are broke, dude.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, a lot of people do get it, but you're right. There's a lot that don't. I guess that it's just in a place, like you just said, it's really in a place right now of a DIY sort of situation. Really is. I mean, even for a band like Incantation, that's got a big fan base, that's been around for 30 plus years. But there was something interesting that he said, and you mentioned it too, in the statement that I want to bring up. It said here, you basically just get a buyout. Now, the word buyout is what caught me attention. So I wanted to see really with Incantation what he meant by buyout. Talk about what a buyout is for those out there that don't really understand. Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to get any hospitality at all, sometimes a club will provide food. And like, I remember there was a place in Seattle that always had these big spaghettis. It'd have like a spaghetti dinner like you were in middle school, and all the bands would eat that. It was like garlic toast. It was just like the cafeteria. And and it could just be pizza. You know, a lot of times it's like really basic, but sometimes you get a cool promoter who actually kind of puts pride in giving the bands something unique, you know, because like everyone's in this for an experience, including the promoters. Then you get the shitbag soulless motherfuckers who are just into it for the money. So they're just trying to buy and sell everything, buy as cheap and sell as expensive, right? So a lot of times, if the band gets anything, they might get a buyout, but that could literally be $5. It could be 10, it could be 20. You know, a combo meal nowadays is $20.
Now,
So
this
that
comes from the promoter, you're saying, most of the time, right?
comes from a budget. I mean, it's funny how the money works in this fucking industry. You know, it's the magic numbers that are different for everybody. I've seen bands that draw nobody that get paid thousands. I've seen bands that fucking fill the house and get paid fucking table scraps, you know? So it's so goofy. Like there's so many variables. But anyway, where does the money come from? Well, yeah, it would be whoever's paying the tour. If you have a tour manager, it's whoever's paying the band. I mean, that'll be worked out, you know, and it could just be a fucking email. You know, it could be as casual as like, hey man, you're going to provide pizza. You can provide anything. Or, you know, if you get like Live Nation corporate levels, like I haven't had much experience in the big whole corporate, like we take care of, we you know, like your babysitters basically, you know, but that's pretty cool. You know, if you get these, if you have your guy that's like your high powered manager that's like taking care of everything for you. But at the end of the day, the band gets paid by somebody. I mean, it could be the fucking club owner, dude. This shit could be so DIY. I mean, or they could have a promoter. That's different. Like the club owner owns the club. The promoter is the guy that actually puts the show together and might have to rent the hall out, rent the room out, or like there's so many variables that need to be worked out. But anyway, that's what a buyout is. You might get $20. Maybe they're crazy rich and they got $50 a day. I doubt it. I bet it
probably not.
$20 a day times 4. And then the crew guy, don't forget you got to feed the crew if they have any. If they have any, but if they have one guy, or you know, if they're like super rock stars, they got 2 people on the road with them. That's another. So now that's 6 people. That's $120 most, and then there's 4 bands. So times that by 4, or do the other bands eat shit? You know, they get nothing. I mean, every single thing could be different. So sounds like they were starving and running out of cash, and they realized that. Dude, how cool is that, man? Everyone's got food in their fucking pantry. You know, that's actually because no one trusts anybody. Like, hey, bro, give us money. Like everyone thinks they're gonna like just spend it on drugs. He doesn't look like a junkie to me.
No, not mid-50s. I doubt it. Yeah,
he looks pretty on the up and up. You know, I think that was super cool. I think it's awesome. And then if he turned it into this whole like food drive for. I don't know where does that food go to. I don't know where that's going to, but shit, dude, bands. I wish bands had an awesome meal every day, dude. They're normally getting nothing.
Sure. You know, the thing is, so what I did was I went and looked and to see who is promoting this tour for Incantation. Now, this is something I had been talking about when this first came out about almost 3 years ago. So their tour is going through indeed Live Nation. Okay. Now 3 years ago, Live Nation came out with that On the Road Again program thing, whatever, where bands would play at the Live Nation connected venues throughout the country. And if they signed up for this thing, they would get these gas cards and these food vouchers or gift cards or what have you. Right? There was a whole thing.
Wasn't it for Taco Bell? Wasn't it?
I mean, Taco Bell, I think so. Yeah.
I think we wanted that. Like I was probably in Gypsy Hawk at the time, but that was a long time ago. But they've done these promos like, oh my God. Like we were like salivating at that offer. That would have been incredible. We did not get that.
True. But now if you think about it, and this was the thing we were talking about, was we discussed, I mean, you know, really how catastrophic though this was going to be, because what would essentially happen is Live Nation would, you know, they already have a stronghold, as we know, on the big venues and the big bands, you know, the whole market. But this was their way of coming in and basically either completely undermining or taking out the underground rock and metal scene with all those venues. And I remember, I know you've seen this. I'll just give an example of here in San Francisco. Since that took hold, I remember about a year after it took hold, one venue, and is when I first saw you play live with Void Vader at Bottom of the Hill. I remember one of the owners came out and said this a couple years ago, like, this isn't good about this on the road again thing, because what essentially it's going to do is if everyone signs up for this and no bands are going to start playing the Bottom of the Hills and all these other venues, the good, underground rock venues, they're all going to be done. And sure enough, they all are. Bottom of the Hill is done at the end of the year. The Parkside, another big one up here that's, been for going on 30 years. They're done.
One. Really?
Right? Yeah, you played that too, right? Yeah. Yep. They got a month left and they're done. We've got Slims that closed down a handful of years ago during the pandemic. So I think because, look, Live Nation essentially, because of that, they've now completely completed their mission, and now this on the road again thing has been shut down as well from Live Nation. It just ended, I think, at the end of January.
Well, it could have been like a strategy. They do that, like they're very predatory. Like they look at other clubs as competition that they want to either take over or destroy.
Exactly.
See, I don't work for Live Nation. I will say this is like, it's like when you play one of those clubs, like and it's weird because like I thought they were playing, like I played the Launchpad many times in Albuquerque. That's a little club, is awesome. I didn't think that was Live Nation, but maybe it is now. But a lot of times the give and take is that there'll be like roadies and sound crew there, and they're really good, and the sound system is really good, and that's amazing. Like it's a pro club, and that's all taken care of. And then I guess the idea is, if you're a huge band that's, at the top of the food chain, then you're taken care of. But a lot of the opening bands, get nothing. Now, I thought Incantation was, like, I thought that bill was all everybody's equals, or, I guess when you said it was Live Nation, I was a little taken aback. But you can also just get nothing, and it sounds like they were going hungry. So I'm getting off back to what I was talking about. Maybe Live Nation really did that. That's really shitty just to do that, to take away the good bands, to kill the small clubs, and then to take that program away. But what's weird is that for food and stuff like that, like maybe that was a promo through Taco Bell, and it went through Live Nation, but they had nothing to do with it. Maybe there's not a promo, like sometimes you get 2-3 months and then that promo's gone. So, like, who knows why that was there and why it was taken away? Maybe it wasn't nefarious,
Well, I think what it is it's kind of like what we saw. We see this all the time with, say, the tech companies. The greatest example I'll use is Uber, right? When Uber came out, it was a lot cheaper than taking a cab or a taxi, right? You didn't have to even tip. It was so convenient, so easy, where it was like, who's going to get a cab or a taxi now, right? And this is what these companies do. They come up with something that's just so, competitively, it's like taxis and cabs couldn't compete with that. So what happened was everyone's just like, I'm not going to take a cab or a taxi. I'm just going to call Uber. Uber puts the cabs and taxis out of business. So now they monopolize they have a corner on the whole market, and then they go, okay, these cheap prices that we were having we're even going to charge now more than those taxis and cabs did. And that's essentially what Live Nation has done. They've taken out all the competition for these venues, okay, for these underground bands. So now they're left with no choice. You either sign up with Live Nation or you ain't going to get, there is no underground for you. You're going to have to even, I don't even know if you could play these VFW halls or these little things that, used to play at roller rinks or whatever.
It's a choice, right? Like you got to sign up with them. They have they have the good clubs. You want to play the good clubs or the shit clubs? Which one you want to do?
Exactly.
That's your choice. And I play the shit clubs all day long. I'll tell you, it's better to play the good clubs.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I know. I hear it all the time. Yeah.
It's a tough decision, because it's like you want to be all, I don't know if you want to be like super underground and super cred, but like, do you play in dive bars where the fucking bathrooms are overflowing onto the fucking main floor? It smells like shit and piss. People getting murdered in the parking lot, et cetera, et cetera. Add. Bad sound, that gets fucking old, man. But I mean, it could be that bad. Like concert prices are absolutely fucking out of control,
Insane.
and it's not just the tickets. It's not just the tickets. It's the parking or the Uber to
Yeah,
get
exactly.
clubs in such a shitty part. I don't want my car stolen, dude. I got $1,000 deductible. I'm fucked.
Exactly.
Right, dude. There are clubs. There's a club down here called 1720, which
Sure.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, dude, so and so is going to go there. I'll probably take an Uber.
Is that the one downtown?
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's
I've
like
been there.
It's in a comically bad area.
It's a seedy spot. Yeah, I saw Helmet play there a handful of years ago, and I remember when I was down there visiting, and it's not in the best neighborhood in downtown.
Just asking to be fucking killed, or
yes.
But it's weird because, like, knock on wood, I haven't been there, and the club itself is great, right?
It is great. It's great.
It's a great club, but that's like it happens so many times with like metal clubs. But like, I'm not driving my fucking 16 when I was 16. My hoopty I had, right?
Hoopty, I heard that word in a while. Nice, absolutely, we all did.
But anyway, dude, the prices are just fucking outrageous, and it is like they're out for the kill. They're killing everyone on housing. They're killing everybody on gas
and everything.
On transportation. Every angle that they got to like twist the screws is like, when is it all going to just break and everyone just like starts living out of a tent, But,
well, and that's the problem too. It's when's it going to break? When people are going to go, like, I'll just use another example. Another musician that just came out, Jeffrey Nothing from the band Mushroom Head, right? He's putting his band back together. I know there's gonna be like 3 versions of Mushroom Head now. It's pretty insane. But
we toured with them on that the Static X tour. We did.
Like, that's right. You did. That's right. That's right. Oh yeah, they were on that tour too. That's right. So he's got a U.S. tour now booked later for this year. It's the first one he's ever doing now for his solo band, and he's saying now they're putting together a fundraiser to help him get a van and a tour vehicle. I mean,
it's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah. It just doesn't end. And again, I'm not bagging on him. I'm not bagging on John McAtee. It's just, like I said, I see their dilemma. Absolutely. It's like, look, guys, if we don't get help from this, we can't come out and tour. But people are like, well, darn, I mean, how much money am I going to spend? And think about it too, what this does. It's like, this cuts out, I mean, and I saw this somewhere recently, the young kids. I mean, dude, they can't afford this. I mean, we can at least afford it here once in a while, but
we can barely afford it. Fucking
exactly.
No way. No way. But that's like he's talking about his van. Know how expensive a fucking van is? An old van. And then all the repairs you got to do on it just to have it roadworthy. You can't have it just break down the first show, dude. It's got to be and it's going to break down anyway. So you got to have that, be prepared for that. And then a trailer, and then shit, they might just be sleep. Dude, it is like bare minimum. It's so like, I don't fault any band, but if anybody's thinking like, dude, your concert's $50, like how much more, which is all that money is not going to them. They might be making $250. They might be making nothing. They might have paid to be on the tour. Like, it's pretty messed up. And so like, unfortunately, I don't think it was this way. It definitely wasn't when I was younger, but I wasn't in the pro touring circuit, but like everything was so cheap. What I'm saying is like, you could get a van for next to nothing. Gas was next to nothing. Insurance, all of the cost of like, you could put it together a lot easier. But like, then again, like studio time was like quadruple, like 1,000 times more expensive, So every era has its own challenges, right? But it's when these evil corporations, like, you got to be careful, because I will say that like, there are some good people that work for these, like even like Guitar Center. All right, I worked for Guitar Center. I taught there. And everyone loves to hate on Guitar Center and say how everyone there is a piece of shit. They all deserve to die and all this stuff. Well, dude, come on, man. Like, actually, Guitar Center gives a pretty good, like, it's a fucking store that sells instruments, all right? And everyone there is usually a musician and just, trying to make some money. And, like, not everyone is evil that's there, And the same thing with, like, like some of these corporations, like, it's nice to play a club that actually has sound and lights and doesn't have just urine and shit like streaming across the floor, So like good things, like, so hopefully at some point like they can find a balance. But right now, the way it seems is that everyone is just like, it's like they're just cashing in all their chips. There's no longevity. There's no way. You can't afford it. And they're like, well, we don't care. We don't care if you can afford it, because guess who can't afford it? All the legacy bands that are already there. They got their own buses. They got their own record plants. They got their own crew. They got staff. Because I don't know if everybody understands that, like, pretty much you're on your own when you're on the road, okay? You are your own entity, all right? And you pay for everything. You're your own little small business, but even though it's not rock and roll to even think about this stuff, but like these bands that have like established their fleet, their crew, their army of people and gear, and like then they're selling it. Like, you notice they're selling it too. The big boys sell their stage props and shit because they're flipping stuff. They're making money because that's like everyone's kind of constantly needs to make money, right? So like it's on every level. But yeah, the small guys, good fucking luck, and it can be done. But then you know what? A lot of my bands. Okay, let's talk about one of the greatest bands of the last 10 years, Bone Church. What did they do? They fucking quit. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Broke up. Yep. They were awesome. But dude, I mean, how many years can you go writing great music, putting on great shows for like tens of people for like $0 for your van? They've had just like every band, but I remember they've had some catastrophic auto repairs that had to happen at the worst times, But great bands that like to me, like they're way better. Like that should be the new COC. That should be the new like stoner rock band that everybody listens to. They were fucking awesome. They look cool. They had great, like there's nothing you can't fault. Like they're a perfect band. They're dead because they ran out. I know,
it's sad.
Like how long can you do that?
With it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's almost like you invest and then you just get no return. And then at some point,
so you just close up shop. Like you said, it's your own entity. Yeah.
It was a good run, You could be the greatest restaurant on earth. If you can't pay the fucking bills, you're done. So that's the shame. And it's a shame for music fans, And so yeah, it's that's what people are up against. So go back to your boy from Incantation, man, hats off. Like, I think it was awesome what he's very ingenuitive, is that a right word? But I think that was really clever and very,
it's innovative and clever. I agree with that. And again, it just continues to show how crazy this business is right now, how really on its last legs. I mean, even for a band like that's been around for 30 plus years, like you said, this isn't a brand new upstart band that's been around for 5 years that has one, maybe two records.
That's metal band. That's
a legendary band.
Yeah. So it's gotta be tough, and these are the things that like so many people won't talk about and don't want to talk about. I don't know if it's a source of pride, but like, or they're just putting on this illusion of success, which I've never bought into, but I guess, do people really think that's cool? Like pretending to be way more successful than you? Like, dude,
no.
We're all rich. Like that's not even that's lame.
I think it's the opposite. It's more, the more you're saying, hey, we need help here, the more legit, or I should say more credible that is, the fact that people know you're going on tour, you're getting in a van, and you're really just, begging for food, literally. I mean, at that point. And again, like you said, I understand for legacy bands like an Incantation, when you're used to good hospitality, which, they get a lot more of, obviously, in Europe than we do here in the States. It's got to be frustrating, and it's got to be just demoralizing, where it's like you said, like a band like Bone Church was like, why are we doing this? I mean, if we're only having a certain amount of people buy our records, we're putting all this time and effort and investment into our art, and there's no even return on, like, not expecting a full return on, but there's not even a little bit of return. Why start a sustainable return,
right? Yeah. And I bet
tough
I bet they want to see. I don't talk to those guys all the time or almost ever, but they seemed really into it. And I guarantee if there was like some return, like then they'd still be doing it. And it's not like, why are we doing this? But it's more like, how can we do this? But I mean, I guess that's fucking life. And those guys are they'll go on and they can always reform, and stuff like that. Same thing with every band. I will say Incantation was never Morbid Angel. It was never Deicide. That's like the big, Morbid Angel, Deicide, Cannibal Corpse. That's like the big three of death metal, right? So maybe they've always been just like kind of struggling, but they're definitely super established. I wonder, bands from Europe seem to have every region, every band has its own system and like reality, but I think they get support. Somehow they get paid way more, and American bands are fucking have to scrap. Like it's a lot tougher. It's a lot tougher. So there's just no. It is what it is, man. Like
it is.
If you know what, the way that it is out here, like I guess unfortunately, if it doesn't work out, it's too bad. So bands have to be creative, and you got to get by. And it's I give them props for not just canceling. Like a lot of people will just. I mean, there's a lot of tours canceled, and they can say, "Oh my God, I've been in bands." I don't want to go on a tangent. I can go on a fucking mean tangent about some motherfuckers who just want to call it quits, and they don't give a shit about the tour, the other bands, anyone who's made plans and bought tickets and looking forward to this. They don't give a fuck. They get upset, bored. They might be a little mentally unhinged. They want to quit one day, and they just quit. And a lot of people do that, and they'll come up with an excuse. So that happens too.
Yep. It's unfortunate. I know it's in a tough spot, and obviously, so if you got out there, you want to drop off some food for these bands too. I guess I'm sure most bands are accepting, not just Incantation. And
oh my God, bands accept charity all day long.
I know.
All day long. Fucking a beer. Oh, thanks. You know what I mean?
Well, he was actually asking for that too. Exactly. Anything really, right? Anything to just keep these bands on the road, and it's just the way it is right now. I know it's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
It's nuts.